Hi. Hopefully I can get this done because my daughter and my husband have been texting me nonstop. I tried to do this once already. We'll see how far I get. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. I'm here to do my weekly wrap up, and I read 5 books this week. I think that's it. So the first one was Only Forever by Linda Leal Miller. I give this a 2. It wasn't very good. It starts off with Nick D'Angelo, and he's this former baseball player who owns a restaurant, and he's sick in his bed, and he watches this home shopping network, and Vanessa's on it. He sees her and he falls in love and needs to meet her, and his best friend is her boss, and she's very standoffish because she's been burned by her ex-husband, who has written a book and has lied through his teeth throughout the whole thing about her and made her into this sadomasochistic nymphomaniac, and she refuses to sign off on it. Like she said, if he prints it, she's going to sue him. So he's trying to get back into her good graces just so that his book can be published, and causes all sorts of havoc. But it only takes place over a few weeks, and you know, it was really, I know it was one of her earlier books, just not impressed with it at all. So then I read A Valentine for the Cowboy by Rebecca Winters, and I think I gave it a 4. Eli is a man who has been divorced, but not willingly divorced. His wife ends up having a baby, and within a week of it, she gets into this massive postpartum depression that she doesn't want anything to do with the baby, anything to do with her husband. She wants to go home to her parents, and so they end up getting divorced. And this woman, what is her name? Brianna. She is in town because her parents have been killed in a car accident, and she couldn't handle staying on the family winery property, so she goes and stays with her aunt and uncle and works in their shop of like hats and saddles and stuff like that. And she is in Eli's mother's gem shop because they own like their acreage is has a mountain on it, and it produces sapphires. So they sell raw stones. And her uncle wants to buy a ring for her aunt. And so she meets up with Eli's brother, and they're at the gem shop, and she's holding Eli's daughter, and Eli thinks it's his brother's girlfriend. It's cute. It's pretty clean, and yeah, it was sweet. It was a nice, sweet little read. I didn't really have too many problems with it at all. I can't really recall, so I gave it a 4. Then I read Falling for the MD by Marie Ferrarella. I think I gave this a 3. This one's about a doctor who is, his father had just died, and he founded this hospital that they all work at. And this woman, Bethany, is a, what is it? She's like an economist. She tries to save the hospital money, and she's trying to help this HMO company buy out the hospital so that the hospital can save money on new technology in case of lawsuits, stuff like that. And the doctor, Peter, does not want that to happen because whenever they need new technology, they raise funds, like fundraising stuff, to get like new MRI machines and stuff like that. And she doesn't agree with it. She said that that's only going to last for so long. And he says, well, if we go with the HMO, sure, they'll give us the new technology, but then he'll have to fight tooth and nail to be able to use that technology because it costs so much. So he wants to keep it local, stuff like that. And that's where I have a hard time, because it happens here too, that the money people are running the hospitals, and the people who are actually working in the hospitals now, like the doctors and that, don't care about the actual patients. They care about their paychecks. And yes, that is a big thing in this city. It is huge. There have been so many misdiagnoses and deaths because of that. And I really think that people who are money oriented should not be running healthcare. Plain and simple as that. Anyways, tie right over. So yeah, and then the one thing I had a problem with is they were having a coffee in a coffee shop. And this is just like 2 days after they meet, 3 days after they meet, sort of deal. And he's a doctor. There's a car crash outside. So he runs outside. She gets all upset because he left his jacket. And how dare he help this kid that's in an accident, because he might be sued if anything goes wrong. And he said, I'm a doctor. I have to help him. If he dies, then it'll be on my head that I didn't help him. And she's like, well, you're going to ruin your coat. It's going to have blood on it. Like, really? He's a doctor. I don't think he gives a shit about his coat. So that rubbed me the wrong way. And then she, like, later on in the book says something about it. But she was flipping out on him for treating this teenager who wrapped his car, like slid and wrapped his car around a pole. And he knew, like, the EMTs or the doctors, once they got in the hospital, if he hadn't helped, the kid would have died. So it's like, really? That's why people who are money oriented should not be running a hospital. He didn't care about money. He wanted to help people, which is what doctors should be. So that's why I had a hard time with this one. And then, 2 or 3 weeks later, I had so many problems with this. I liked it for Peter. He stood up for what he believed in, and he fought for what he believed in, which is taking care of patients, not about how much it's going to cost. So yeah, I'm not a fan of her. Yeah. So anyways, on to Catch of the Day by Kristen Higgins. I cried. I cried. This was so sad, but it was so good, and it was funny. It's about twins. Well, it's not really about twins. It's about one twin, and it's Maggie. But I have a couple of things to say about that. And her twin sister is happily married with kids, or kid, and she's running the local diner. Her grandfather had died and given it to her, and everybody's, saying, oh, poor Maggie. She doesn't have a man, and she does, that kind of stuff. So a local priest comes to take over the parish, and it's New England or Maine? Maine. And she falls in love with him because he wasn't wearing, I know a lot of people have problems because she fell in love with a priest, but when she first meets him, he is not wearing his priest garb. So you have to give her that. She fell in love with him. He's cute. And he's got an Irish brogue. So that just tops it right off. And then they find out that he's a priest, and the whole town has already known that she's fallen for somebody, and then finds out it's a priest. So they hound her about it, and she takes it in good spirit. And then there's this very quiet guy that kind of helps her out one time, and everybody's, kind of joking, well, what about him? And she's like, no. And it goes from there. The one problem I had with this book is, and I marked off the spots, and it's not really a dead giveaway, but her mom is getting mad at her, and her mom's a bitch, plain and simple. But she said, because she goes by Maggie, but her first name is Margaret, and it says, if she calls me Margaret Christine, I'm dead. Okay, so her name is Margaret Christine. Her sister's name, because they were bugging her sister on how, and their last name is Beaumont. They were bugging her sister on how perfect her sister's life is. And where is it? It says, can't have everything unless your name is Christine Margaret Beaumont Jones, because her married name is Jones. You named your twins the same thing, only transversed. One is Margaret Christine, the other one is Christine Margaret. Seriously? Because, on documents, everything's the last name, middle name, or first name, middle name, and it's going to be, that was just ridiculous. So I had to read back and find it and going, yeah, I was right. But anyway, so she has this dog that is getting old and dying, and she loves him. She's had him since the breakup of her supposed engagement. She was engaged to this guy that is a baseball player and from high school, and then they're in college age, and he comes back to the city with his fiance, and she's like, what? So yeah, so she's had this dog forever, and it's, she loves this dog. But it was cute. I love this. Yeah, 4. Definitely 4. And I finally finished The Ruins by Scott Smith. It is going to be a very gruesome movie. It is a very gruesome ending. It took me a while to get into this, and I think it was because of everything that I was going through with my mom and the trip, and I just could not focus as much as I wanted to. So it's like 3.75. I gave it a 4. The last 200 pages I flew through, though, because that's when the action really picked up. The first of it is kind of getting to know the characters and their little travels to these ruins. And to me, it was a little bit long, like drawn out, but I can see why it's needed. There are no chapters, but there are breaks, like constant. Wherever there's a capital letter, it's a break. So the whole thing is a bunch of breaks. It's 500 pages, and it took me so long to read. It took me over a month to read this. I started it, I think, on my mom's birthday on January 29th. So yeah, but very gruesome. If you are not into graphic scenes, yeah, don't. But I think I've never read this book, but I know the premise, and then There Were None by Agatha Christie, and I kind of equate this as And Then There Were None meets the Little Shop of Horrors movie. If you've seen that, you would understand. So yeah, very gruesome, and the ending is one of those that you're like, oh no, kind of deal. So I gave it a 4 anyways. And so that has been what I've read. I'm pretty sure, I don't think I've read anything else. What I'm currently reading, and before this dies, I'll show you this, is Patricia Briggs' Bloodbound. The book that I was originally going to read for the Triple RC Challenge was 5th Grade to the Left. 5th Grade Past the Light, by Dorinda Jones. And it had been taken out, so I needed to get another book to read, so I picked this one. And then that one came in, but I'm going to use that for next month, because next month I need that one too, so it all works out. And then I'm also reading The Ice Twins by S.K. Tremaine. Now, nothing about the book, but when you're working in a library, you really should know how to spell their last name, because they spelled it with an extra Y. Go figure. But anyways, it's about I'm pretty sure everybody knows it, but it's about a family whose one twin daughter dies, and then the other twin says, but Mummy, I'm the one that died. Now, so far, I've only gotten a little bit in, and she's 8 years old, so why? My one question is, why did she not say that she was Christy when this happened? Because it didn't happen that long ago. It only happened a year or 14 months previously, so the kid can talk, and kid knows who she is. So I'm wondering why all of a sudden she's saying, but I'm Lydia, not Christy. And she's been in this room with her name splattered all over the place, like in glitter letters, and now all of a sudden her reading has improved, because Lydia could really read and Christy was struggling. Now Christy's reading all of a sudden, and the dog has reacted to her differently, because the dog reacted to Lydia and Kirsty, differently. So they're also losing their house because her husband had got fired, because all these problems of losing a twin or a daughter has caused him to drink, and then he ended up punching his boss out. Punching them out. So yeah, like so his grandmother had left him this island with a lighthouse on it, and they're going to move there to it. So that's as far as I've gotten, pretty much. They haven't even moved yet. So what am I going to read? I think I only have 2 more books left besides those 2, for the RRC challenge for February, and one of them is Blood Fever by Karen Marie Moning, and it is book 2 in her Fever series. I'm not sure if that's the name of it. But it's about Faye and Dublin. Like, I really like the first one. I can remember snippets here and there. But yeah, so I'm going to read that one. My other one that I need to finish is Savage Thunder by Joanna Lindsay, and that is book 2 in the Wyoming trilogy. I don't think it's Wyoming Territories. I think it's just Wyoming. But yeah, so I read the first one last month. And then I will pick up a nonfiction book, Inside the Mind of a Teen Killer by Phil Chalmers. And it's a bunch of different, I think it's about different young kids that have killed. I think so. Because there's a bunch of, yeah, like, so. That will be what I'm reading. Now, on to one other thing. Hubby's birthday's coming up, and I need to get some funds. I do have clips, so now would be a great time to buy them. But I do have Snoopy. Some of these were late getting up. They will be in my shop very soon. I just have to photograph them, actually. These ones I have to cut out, so if you're into crosses, which I love them, but these are variegated colors. And then apples. As you can see, I still have to cut them out. And heart-shaped macaroons with glasses. So, yeah, have to cut them out. That is it for today. I will come maybe in the next couple of days and do my March TBR, because I've figured out for the RRC. Yeah, so there's that. I hope everybody has a wonderful day. I'm trying to get through the comments. I know I haven't been as proactive as I wanted to be, but you understand that there's so much going on right now. So yeah, I hope everybody has a wonderful day. Let me know what you guys are reading, if you've read any of the books, and how you thought of them. Bye.